Welcome back everybody to the Wandering Samurai Study, in which we review and analyze every single act told in Rurouni Kenshin, and today's act is Act 66, The Abandoned Village. There's a lot to unpack in The Abandoned Village, and we're really only going to focus on the village itself. But before we get into all of that, I want to give a shout out to Alameska, a commenter of the Wandering Samurai Study, because in this chapter, Saito comes out, and he comes out at the very last moment, and it's like Saito shows up, and then it's like, oh, end of volume. He shows up to save Misao, and just a few videos ago, I was kind of talking about how Saito just manages to show up like unexpectedly whenever we just kind of need him. And Alameska commented saying that Saito is a trope in himself, that he kind of just shows up to be Saito when Saito is needed. When there's a gap to be filled, Saito can fill in that gap. And she pointed that out, and I think it's fantastic. So I wanted to give her a shout out, specifically because when I read this part, or when I saw that part in the chapter, I thought of you, Alameska. So shout out. Hope you're doing good. But let's get into the chapter summary review, and we'll get into the abandoned village. In his final breath, the dying man pleads for Kenshin to save his village from Shishio. When his brother awakens, he fills Kenshin in on the situation, and Kenshin makes his move to the village, with Misao and the young boy secretly following behind him. Kenshin finds the decimated corpses of the boy's parents hanging from the gallows. When the young boy sees them himself, his cries for his parents alert Shishio's men of Kenshin's arrival. In a fury over the state of the boy's parents, Kenshin declares that he will take everyone down. Misao, who is trying to get the boy to compose himself, is narrowly saved by Saito. So without further ado, let's get into the abandoned village, Shingetsu Village. Apparently it means New Moon Village, which is kind of fitting because it's kind of like the other side of the moon. Because what this village means is that this village, and why it comes out in this point of the story, it's to really emphasize that what Kenshin is doing right now, and the whole goal of Kyoto is to prevent the rest of Japan from looking and appearing as this village. The way that the people are suffering, the way that a boy and his brother narrowly dodge trying to escape Shishio's wrath, and the men that are in this village. If there was ever a visual aid that was needed, this is it right here. It's to kind of reinforce to us, the viewers, the readers, of Shishio's influence, but also for Kenshin himself to know that failure is not an option. If there was any doubt still lingering in Kenshin's heart about whether this is the right thing to do or not, this village and this point of the story, it's to kind of wash that away and really emphasize this needs to get done. Shishio needs to be stopped, and Senkaku and his men need to be dealt with. So when Kenshin is in his fury, I just absolute chef's kiss for this moment, because to be pissed off the way that Kenshin did is absolutely necessary. But to actually get into the village and what it means for the Meiji, it's at some point in the chapter, the boy shows a map to Kenshin where Shingetsu Village is completely wiped off of the map. And what it means is that Japan has basically abandoned this village. Oh, whoa. Isn't that the name of the chapter? But what it means is that despite the Meiji being this new form of government, and its survival, and it being the next step for Japan, and the Meiji itself, and the type of government that has been created since the Bakumatsu, and where it is heading and what it hopes to obtain, the Meiji absolutely needs to look invincible. It needs to prove to the people that this is the way of life. This is the way we do things now. We have evolved as a society and as a government from the old ways, and for the survival, or for the direction that Japan wants to head into, it needs to survive. And if there's a blemish which this village basically is, then the fact that this village exists and is not under the control of Japan's government, that's a problem. Again, it really just kind of comes back to emphasizing that Kenshin cannot fail, and that the Meiji survival is really dependent on Shishio being taken down. But this village is already kind of proof that Shishio's influences has already begun to spread, because the fact that the Meiji has labeled it a lost cause means that they have tried at least to take care of the problem. They've tried to send people down to take care of Senkaku and his men, but failed to do so, and ultimately just decided that it can't be dealt with. And this kind of poses a little bit of a problem, because why didn't they just send Saito there? Why didn't they just send Saito to take care of it? Because I'm sure that Saito maybe Saito would have had issues with Shishio, but I'm pretty sure Saito could have taken care of Senkaku with no problem. But at this point in the story, at this point in this chapter, we don't know who Senkaku is. We don't know what he's capable of. But, that's just me kind of being familiar with the story and knowing what I know about Senkaku. That's kind of something that kind of bugged me a little bit when I was reading this chapter. But yeah, so the village itself, if it's a blemish on Japan and the Meiji, and it's really just to highlight that Kenshin cannot fail. But that's the village itself. So I want to talk about something that I don't think I ever really noticed before, or when I guess maybe reading the anime or when I first read the manga, it didn't really stick out in my mind. But kind of taking the time to analyze it and think about this chapter, we're told that Shishio is here in the village. It's kind of just quickly thrown out there, but without actually telling us that Kenshin and Shishio are about to meet. We know that Kenshin and Shishio are about to face one another for the first time, and this is really cool because it's not Kyoto. This village it's still a ways from Kyoto, but we know, just based off of the information that's kind of thrown into this chapter, is that we're about to get to see these two characters meet, and that's pretty cool because Kenshin hasn't even mentioned anything. He hasn't said, show me Shishio. He hasn't said, I need to get to Shishio. He knows that if he goes into this village, he's gonna meet him. He's in there somewhere. And I don't think that Kenshin is prepared for that. He's not ready to meet him, I don't think, because he still has his whole character arc that he's going through in this chapter, where he's trying to find out if he's even good enough to defeat Shishio without tapping into the Hitokiri Batosai. So, man, it's just so cool. It's just really great information just being kind of presented, and then the characters not showing it. Not like we're not told that Kenshin's worried, but we know that Kenshin's worried. And that's so cool. And then to finish off this chapter, let's talk about the men, because Kenshin finds the decimated corpses of the boy's parents, and they're hung up. When the boy cries and the Shishio's men show up, one of the men actually say that yes, Senkaku was the one that left them in this state. He's the one that murdered them and roughed them up the way that these people look. But we, the grunts, the bottom feeders, are the ones that took it upon ourselves to hang them as a message. And that just tells you everything that you need to know about Shishio's army. That they are just as cold and malicious and sadistic as Shishio himself. That Shishio runs such a tight army with his philosophy that even the bottom feeders are just as wicked and evil as he is. Just kind of let that sink in a little bit. They're just as bad as Shishio. It's almost as if Shishio has a cult following, and this cult following is gonna follow him to the ends of the world because they truly believe that Shishio is the person who can take over Japan. Fucking nuts. And that, ladies and gentlemen, has been Act 66 of Rurouni Kenshin. If you like this video and you want to see more, then consider subscribing to the channel, leave a thumbs up, and comment down below something that you enjoyed about this chapter. Let me know what you guys think about Shingetsu Village. How it is a village, it is a blemish on the Meiji, but it's also part of the phantom world that Shishio lives in. This village no longer exists in Japan, but it exists in Shishio's world. The phantom world that Shishio exists in. Let me know what you guys think. Oh my gosh, this chapter is low-key kind of nuts. I'll talk to you guys all in the comment section down below. Bye, cha.